Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Comic Book Catch Up, and this is the show, if you're not familiar with it, I take a comic book that I missed reading or one I've wanted to catch up on for a long time in either modern or not so modern times that I figured now that I have a show to talk about it, we are going to talk about it and have fun with it. But, as always, these are non-spoiler reviews because I want to give you incentive to read the book yourself. That's the main idea of this show, is to give you some incentive to read the book that I'm talking about. And today, we are talking about Kurt Busiek and Brent Anderson's Astro City. Now, I've kind of knew what Astro City was. I've always been familiar with the title, but I've never actually delved into it or really understood what that was supposed to be. We are talking about the first 6 issues of Volume 1. This is in 1995, so that's all we're talking about. If this is good and you guys enjoy this, maybe we'll come back and talk about the other volumes on Comic Book Catch Up, but I think this was a really fun read. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've always been a fan of just taking the angle of superheroes and doing something new with it, twisting it on its head, doing the parody. And one of the characters that's easy to do that with is Superman. And that's what you get here with the character of Samaritan. So Samaritan is kind of the lead in a couple issues of this book. But the main premise of this book is we're just seeing the days in the lives of Astro City. We're seeing, from the ground, the, civilians that live there, some people that live there, and how these superheroes in this world exist in this city. And it's a pretty fun read. It's just really enjoyable to see that. So we got a good story at the beginning with Samaritan and how he just goes about his day, how he's a news reporter, and or I guess he's an editor actually, a news reporter. I'm just saying Superman now. How he's this editor and he proof checks a bunch of books, but how he spends his day doing that while being the biggest hero in the world. And there's something really fascinating about that it just kind of flips the switch on that superhero Superman identity and how he's kind of just so good at everything he does. There's this great idea where he's kind of timing himself to see how he does this much every day and how long he takes to do certain things. That's a really fun issue, and it's really cool to see that kind of a story told, especially in the 90s, where we're starting to get into other ideas of how superhero stories can be told and how they can function and do different types of things. So it's taking the Superman analog and doing something unique with it. I think it's pretty fun and very enjoyable. Then the next issue, we get a story about the Captain America analog, and he is the Silver Agent. And it's kind of a story in the past told from the perspective of a news reporter that witnessed the events. Very fun story, thoroughly enjoyed it. This one I think just showed me, oh, this is what we're doing. Because I kind of expected when I went into the second issue where it's how's Samaritan and Home Guard going to connect to the greater scheme of this book? But it's nope. Here's a story told in a different time period about Astro City. And it's just really cool because it's about the city. The city is the main focus of this book. It's not about the characters, it's about the city, which is really cool. It just reminds me, it's building up that classic mythos, something like Gotham City or Metropolis or Marvel's New York. It's doing one of those things where all these characters are here in this central location. And there's so many great stories that can be told there. We get some about this guy who's trying to run away from a criminal that could potentially hurt him, and he's not sure if the criminal saw his face, so every time he thinks he sees the criminal, he's kind of freaking out. We get one from this perspective of this woman that lives in a shady neighborhood and how the guardian of that neighborhood is kind of warning her when a bad day is about to come. That kind of stuff. It's just really exciting and really unique. I just thoroughly enjoyed myself reading this, and it was only 6 issues, so I'm I can definitely go back into this series and read more, It just makes me happy reading this book. And I think, though, the last issue was my favorite, just because this issue was here's your analog for a couple characters that you know from DC Comics. How would these two types of superheroes interact on a date? What would they talk about? How would they feel? How would they interact with each other when they know they cannot catch a break, or if they take a breath, something bad could happen? It's really fun. I just love having that sense of the city being something very important. It's really fun. There's also this character, what's his name? Crackerjack, who is, I think he's supposed to be your Green Arrow, Daredevil analog character. That story in issue 5, that was really fun too, just because it went in so many different places that you could kind of expect if you were familiar with a superhero world, but if you're not, it's just really fun read. I really don't know what else I can say about it. Just you guys know who Kurt Busiek is. He's done some amazing work. You are familiar with it. And if you're not, I think this is a good place to start because it feels like he cares about superhero comic books as opposed to other things where it just feels like someone's shitting on comic books or is pissed off at them or it's I don't need to tell you anything. You get it. F you. I'm going to do what I want anyways. This feels here's a character you love. Here's the character you know, you're familiar with. How would they interact every day when the city loves them so much? Or how would civilians in this situation react to seeing heroes, seeing how they do certain things? Do they save the right people? Do they interact the right way? It's just a really fun premise like that. There was nothing I hated about this book. The artwork is very of the 90s, but you're going to get that, and I don't know if it's going to progress over time in the later incarnations of the book. But from this 1995 6 issues, I still think it's got a very timeless feel. Obviously, the covers from Alex Ross are gorgeous and beautiful, and it's nice seeing like an up-and-coming Alex Ross work on some stuff like this, because his work obviously gets better as he gets more into it, but just seeing him here, I still think it's really nice and very enjoyable. Astro City, I think it's one of those interpretations of superheroes that is very underrated. Like, I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. If you want my honest opinion, just reading these first 6 issues, you could definitely turn this into a fantastic TV series. And if I ever get into film, maybe I'll try to do that. I think it'd be really fun and really interesting. But just the way these characters are, you understand the beats of what they're supposed to be. But it's like, what's a day in the life like for these people? Instead of having the big, grand, sweeping arcs, it's like, what happens the day when they have to do this? What happens when there's a fire in this certain situation? What happens when a villain might see your face? Or you're going on a date with Superman, you know, that kind of stuff. It's pretty exciting and very enjoyable. So, Astro City, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 6, I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10. I think if you are a fan of this genre, it's a must-read, and I definitely think it's an underrated classic that a lot more people should enjoy. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm not sure if it'll be true or not later on, but I might put it in my top 10 comics that aren't related to Marvel or DC. So, if that's enough to get you interested, go find these first couple issues and we'll talk about them and we'll enjoy them. There are some trade paperbacks. If I can find them on Amazon, I will link them in the description below. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff, and I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck. Tsunami Studios.